Welcome to the Mountain Spirit Co-op monthly magic mixer. Tonight, I have the honor of hosting Dr. Robin Burson. Gosh, I said her name wrong. I'm terribly sorry.
The world of
Tonight's evening is Seeds of the Champion. And I'd like to give you a little bit of background on Dr. Robin. She's been a social entrepreneur, intuitive, humanitarian, clinician, and innovator her entire life. She has spoken and shared her wisdom on 5 continents. She seeds the world with new hope in these venues, a practice that she continues based on her deep love and gratitude for Lazarus. 2 of her ventures, the Dimensions Counseling, Consulting, and the Dimensions Healing Program, are online programs created for kids, by kids, providing everything they need to thrive mentally, emotionally, and physically. The program offers daily mind and body activities, along with opportunities for real social connections, uniting children from across the globe. And without further ado, I present Dr. Robin Burson.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. It's so much my honor to be here tonight. And most of these programs are going on in Africa. And in Africa, the children don't have the same kind of opportunities that you would typically see with children in the US or Canada. And so education became something that had to be more than just reading, writing, math, sciences. It had to be something that helped them to believe that they had a sense of value and worth, because they lived very much in a container where there is no sense of value and worth. And obviously what I want to do too is instill hope. And so for those of you who know me, because I've done another kind of a lecture on this, the Arthurian legends were always something very, very dear to me. My dad and I would read the books and talk about it and play our roles and be all the different knights in legend. And then for those of you who are Lazarus folks, you know that Lazarus spent a great deal of time on Arthurian legends. And I took some of my hero work from those legends with Jack's permission a long time ago, because it was just to help the children, and it is principally done in 501c3 projects. So it is not something that we ask for indigent people who don't have the money for food to then pay for a program. So this is done through everybody's generosity. And in the context of the world we're living today, I thought it was very appropriate to talk about being a champion. And I think it was maybe 6 months ago, in one of Lazarus's offshoot groups, Marilyn Winfield's group, Gail Roberts, who's a magician, had brought forward an old work that Lazarus did in I think it was 2014 on champions. And it so resounded with me that I really wanted to bring this forward, because each of us now that are living are being called to be champions, champions for ourselves, champions for each other, champions for our world, and champions for those who don't have the voice, the strength, the courage, or the capacity as of yet to be champions for themselves. And so I will start this, and I'd like it to be interactive. There's a lot of info, so I probably won't get to all of it, but I wanted to include in this PowerPoint things that I had gone over before so that Dana, I can send this to you, and people who are interested in having the whole shebang can receive the work. Okay. I'd like you to imagine, look down at your feet and imagine that the very shoes that you are wearing are the shoes of a hero, the shoes of a champion, the shoes of somebody who is here to uplift our world. In the hero's shoes, you will be developing an intimacy with heroes and champions and learning about beautiful tools that help us to become our valued self. Because until we value ourselves, we can't champion for anybody, including ourselves. So with the champion energies, each of us have this. These are not something that, oh, Robin has or Susie and Jim have, but everybody else has got to go searching for. No, all we really need to do is connect within. This is the chart of the heroes. This guy on the left is my oldest son, Jacob, as a hero. And one of my other partners, this is her daughter. So we created avatars from our children and people that we loved when we started putting out these programs in the schools. Anyway, Lazarus talked about there being seeds of a champion. And the first seed of a champion is freedom. And when we're thinking of seeds, as you're looking down at your shoes, I want you to think about where these seeds might be held within your bodies, because I promise you that within each of you, there is a seed of freedom. What is freedom? Freedom is the power and the right to speak, to act, to change, and to be as one chooses without hindrance or restraint, and with liberty, with autonomy, and self-determination. Each of us has freedom, but this seed is a seed of freedom that contains graciousness or grace. This seed is imbued with grace. And when you think about grace, one of my most favorite ways of thinking about them is something, again, that I learned from my teacher, Lazarus, is thinking about grace as the body and the movements of the most beautiful dancer, or the artist who is able to see color and form and shape in a way that many of us have not truly explored. So what we're going to be doing here in Freedom is we're going to be defining ourselves through this lens, the lens that we use when we're connecting to our soul and spirit. We're going to be guided by our souls and our spirits so that we can live a life of a champion and live with grace that is not tainted by habit, by coercion, by compulsion, or by control. Seed number 2 is individuality. And individuality is to know who you are, but also to know who you are not. To know your boundaries with both certainty and without certainty. And why that is so beautiful an expression of individuality is sometimes we have to have strict boundaries. I need to know the difference at times between myself and each of you. But sometimes, like for instance, when we're meditating together and each of us are in common purpose, we may choose collectively to share each other's energies together. And there I allow my boundaries of self to integrate with your boundaries. And together we create a standing wave that is more than each of us individually. So this wave together is a new energy. And that's why I think it's a really cool way of thinking about individuality. Individuality requires a courage to live a life that reflects who you authentically are, not who the world wants you to be, not who your husband, your kids, your employer wants you to be, but truthfully who you are. This authenticity is a knowing that doesn't rely on facts or empirical data. It just is, you know. It's a knowing that is both liberating and determining, and it is a knowing that honors life. Seed number 3 is joy. Joy is so many things, but it's the willingness to move beyond meeting your needs to seeking your preferences and being willing to risk this for greater love. And that can be a little bit of a paradox in a sense, but each of us may be in these wonderful, joyful, loving relationships, but we have to be willing as we plant this seed of joy and connect to it, to seek more love, to be willing to let the love that we currently experience, even if it's wonderful, to go, so that we can move to a higher octave, a more expansive octave, a more intimate octave of what love is. And this is not a singular, this is something we do throughout our lives. Joy is both a resolution and a solution. So with joy, we can resolve that today, this is how I'm going to conduct my life. This is the attitude, the belief, the thoughts, the feelings, the choices that I'm going to be bringing forward. But joy is more than that, because in this seeding of joy, we're also seeking a solution so that we're not going round and round and round the same old stuff. So we're seeking both resolution and solution. Joy challenges your strength, it challenges your power and your talent, and it seeks to reach greater octaves and renditions within each of us. Seed number 4 is authority. And in authority, we know and have the permission to be powerful. We know this permission lies within each of us because it's a gift that's already been given to us by the divine, by our higher self, by our soul, by our team of unseens, however we connect to the divine. This kind of authorship that I'm talking about, or authority, Lazarus talked about this as being a splendid authority. And what he means is that there are many different kinds of authority, but this is the authority that provokes within us the seed that blooms so that we can be the authors of our own lives, the creators of our own reality. The champion has a commanding and an imposing authority that does not impinge upon others. So it is not going to negate the rights of others in its authority, but actually work in synergy with the rights and responsibilities of others in a healthy humankind. But this energy is something that is present and alive as we author our lives. Number 5 is forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that many of us have worked with for our entire lives. I know it's something that always remains pivotal for me, but until we can forgive, we can't make any changes. And so forgiveness is such a powerful emotion, and it's an expanding emotion. Lazarus, in the context of a champion, just talked about enchanted forgiveness. And so he talked about enchanted forgiveness as being slightly different than just a generalized forgiveness, because it's a forgiveness that senses the mystery of forgiveness and its magic and its power. When I say that, I get the chills. It's just so enormous for me. The mystery of forgiveness and its magic and its power. To know within the mystery of forgiveness, there lies another seed. It's a seed of hope. And to know that forgiveness can be a bridge that we use as a guide to our future potentials. To know forgiveness inspires and liberates, and that within this lies the bounty of hope. And I'm going to talk about forgiveness as a final thing, because when you forgive, it's so important to forgive. But how do you forgive a heinous, horrible act? That might be too difficult a thing to do. You may never be able to forgive the act, which I learned is the what. But you can forgive the why. I can forgive not the act, but I can forgive the why. The person is tortured, the person is sick, the society is limited. There are no boundaries in place that cause healthy rules and to be in place in a society, whatever the various things are. So simply to remember that each of us can forgive the why. We never have to forgive the what. So we're not bound in this stage. This is a state of liberation. The seed number 6 is mattering. In this context, I always think of mattering as being the valued self, as being that would be like my definition of being a champion, of being a hero, of being a masterful magician, of being a really good human being. That for me is about mattering, of being a good friend, a good daughter, a great friend, a great daughter, a great mom, a great partner, all of the things in life. But in this context, Lazarus was talking about how important it was with mattering. He brought forward the veils of mattering and how important it was to lift the veils. And the veils of mattering are mystery, compliance, daring, surrender, and admission. So mystery is, I don't think I need to go through that with anybody, but compliance is that you're living a great life and you're happy in your life and you've complied with all of the realities that require you to comply with to stay happy in that life. And it's just sometimes it's so important to explore what we comply with and challenge those compliances. And that's where daring comes in, the veil of daring. In mattering, we have to be daring enough to look in all of the places, far, wide, deep, light, dark, good, bad, everything in between. But we have to be daring and have the courage. And to have daring, you have to feel safe. And so we also need safety. Then comes surrender. This was another big word for me. I spent at least 40 years hating it. I mean, literally hating this word because I viewed surrender as a defeat. I grew up thinking that to surrender was to defeat, to be defeated or to defeat. And now I realize that in surrender, there is a wonderful power and a grace that it takes so much courage and so much responsibility. And so for me, now I view surrender as a triumph when I get to a point where I've gone through all of the component pieces. And then I can move to admission, and in admission comes ownership. So I hope that kind of explains it a little bit. I know it's a little bit esoteric, a little bit of a paradox. So I'm happy to discuss this with anybody offline as well. But in mattering, we must have a willingness to delve within the mystery of mattering, to become more alive, more authentic, more imbued with the value and the identity of a champion. Then seed number 7 is perception and perspective. To have perception and perspective of the veil between worlds. We talk about the world we live in, which is our physical reality. And then many of us, I think all of us, meditate and pray. That's another world that we go to that's outside of the norms of our physical existence. There is, for many people, a concept of the divine, which is a world that is, in Lazarus terms, we would call it the more real, because that's where the truth about who we are, why we are, where we are, and how we are, plus, originates from, and that's where all change occurs and is created and stems from. Any questions? So the goal here is to find our voice, to find the voice of a champion. We can look down at our shoes. We can feel our seeds inside of us, spend time with those seeds, and then we connect to our voice, not the voice that is our speaking, the voice, but that voice that is the voice of a champion, the voice that is imbued with these seeds coming to fruition, the voice of a champion for ourselves, for each other, and for our world. I'm not going to spend the time because of limitations to go through each of the activators and what they are. I included the previous activators that I had shown in the last time that I had done this similar presentation for people that were there. Then I also included something which I wanted to create another route, which is a route that I created a long time ago, which is called the Champion or Hero's Journey. And this is a journey that all champions need to say yes to. So I don't expect you to say yes yet, but I hope that after we get through 1 through 12, you will feel more inclined to say, yes, I am a champion. The first is that every champion starts with their ordinary world. This is where they meet their hero and identify with their hero. For those of us, most of us, I believe, know who Luke Skywalker is and how he helped his uncle Frodo for preparing a party for Gandalf. That is part of the ordinary world. Harry Potter is at his aunt and uncle's house. He seems out of place. Mulan is studying to impress a matchmaker. These are all part and parcel to our ordinary world. Us talking today via Zoom is our ordinary world. So we all start in our ordinary world, but then we hear the call to adventure. This is a challenge or a quest. All champions, all heroes go on quests. That's one of the things they do. You can call it a game, you can call it a journey, you can call it a quest, you can call it whatever you want, but they challenge themselves to go beyond the physical. There might be an event, there might be a problem, there might be a conflict, or there could be an adventure. Oftentimes, I would talk about this with people that I worked with who were having issues with drug abuse, or abuse in the office, all different kinds of contexts like that. And instead of going like this, what they heard instead was the call to adventure. And at first, all heroes refused the call. No, I'm not going to challenge my boss. No, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to cook dinner on Wednesdays for my family because I want to join the Mountain Spirit Co-op meeting, right? Those are all the things that a champion would do. So we have the right to get scared. We have the right to say no. But after we say no, we generally meet a mentor. And in my instance, it was Lazarus. Lazarus became my mentor. Lazarus became the mentor, teacher, and friend who helped me to truly define who I was as a human being today, yesterday, tomorrow, and always. And so we find a mentor, and this mentor helps us to gain confidence, gives us insight, advice, helps us to overcome our fears. Then what we do after we meet our mentor, we become more willing to cross the threshold. This signifies that the hero has committed to his journey. This is when Frodo packed his food to take and set out of the Shire. He went on his adventure. Luke Skywalker leaves Tatooine, and Harry Potter goes on platform 9%. Those are all them hearing the adventure. For those of us that joined with Lazarus, I would venture to say each of us heard a call. And the call was so provocative that even if we said no at first, which I was one that said, I don't buy this nonsense, but I kept going back. I kept going back. And then I heard the call and I was willing to cross the threshold and take the journey. Then there comes the tests, and we learn about our friends, and we learn about our enemies, we learn about alliances, we learn a whole bunch of things about how we can create our community, small and large, our family, small and large. And this is where we always are going to be encountering challenges. Number 7 is the approach to an innermost cave or a sanctum. This is where you are stepping into an unknown. Okay, again, you're stepping into an unknown. I use the symbol of the cave, not because it was anything of import, but you can't see inside the cave. It's dark. It's filled with mystery. And in order to go into the cave, you need to have preparations. These preparations might include a map, reconnaissance strategies, all different food, water, a belay system, whatever it is you feel you need, but certainly good shoes. Then you enter into the ordeal, which is the 8th part of the journey. This is where the greatest fear resides. This is where the largest challenge resides. This could be, the what of this could be where somebody was physically or sexually abused as a child. It could be a miscarriage and that was very, very painful. It could be a divorce. It could be a death. It could be loss of a friend for whatever the reasons. The work here is challenging but necessary because the reward is exponential. And in step 9, this is where the hero overcame his greatest fears, his greatest challenges, and this is where the reward was earned. Mulan's life was spared. Luke received the Death Star plans. Harry Potter received the Sorcerer's Stone, and Frodo received the sword. And in the context of the Knights of the Round Table, they went on the quest and they got the sword, the magic sword that couldn't be pulled out of the earth except by the champion. Number 10 is the road back. This stage is comprised of the hero recommitting to completing the journey and accepting the road back to his or her ordinary world. Number 11 is the resurrection. This can be the most dangerous life and death ordeal for the hero, and it could be the climax of the hero's story. It's a final test, a final cleansing. And it might be something like, if for those of us that are spiritually inclined or know the mind, it could be a showdown between the hero and his shadow self, or the lesser part of himself or herself. During this ordeal, ideal parts, we are always looking into the shadows of self, not just the dark shadows, but the shadows of light. The dark shadows are the constricting shadows that make us be less. And the light shadows are the parts of us that are there for us to be more. And we have issues with both, but our mind holds the things that are essential for us. And so we've got to go into those shadows. Then we return with the elixir. So we've got the magic potion and we know what to do in our life. And so that is basically the hero's journey. It's not a singular journey. It is a journey that can be done time and time again. And in this context, I think it's so important that each of us are touching the seeds of who we are as a champion, having them come to fruition, finding those seeds, identifying with who we are as champions, and being willing to go on our hero's quest, our hero's journey with authenticity, with courage, with intimacy, and with incredible love. So that's the context of this. And then I wanted to open it up for some questions, and then I would go into some activations if you guys wanted to experience them.
Hey, Robin.
Wonderful presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
You're
you.
welcome, Jim. Thank you, Susie.
That's great. Well,
Thank you, Mary. It's
Thank you.
especially pleasant for me to have some old friends on board tonight, and Victoria too. So nice to see you that I haven't seen in quite a while. So it really makes my heart just feel so happy. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
It's really wonderful. There was something, Robin, that's on a previous the previous slide. I don't know if it was number 5 or 6, but it was the release, letting go, the surrender. And
Mhm.
surrender spoke to me, and because that is a tough one. And you know, as you get older, you see where people surrender, you know.
There it is. I can't even find it, Jim. I still have it.
Yeah,
That's it,
you got it.
You're good.
but the surrender really really settled, really set in with me. And there's a beautiful surrender, and that's exactly how I read that, as a beautiful surrender. And it was just nice to see that and be reminded of that. And thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was
What-
one of my favorites too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it reminded me of, like, you know how Lazarus talks about, and you know, have your boundaries and stay firm with your boundaries, and then just let them go and look somewhere else and allow somebody else, and then you can pick them back up again. I always remember that, surrendering, when I do that with my partner mostly. But yeah, thank you.
Once, when I was speaking with Lazarus, I was talking about surrendering, and that I was so, I had lost so much, and I couldn't get up, and the goddess picked me up. And in that surrender, I allowed myself that surrender. And Lazarus said to me, and Robin, we wonder what would happen if you asked the goddess for help while you were still standing. And so surrender is this beautiful thing, because in 12-step programs, they say, let go and let God, right? And in our meditations and frequently in our prayers, what we're doing is we're ultimately, in our prayers and meditations, giving it to the divine and asking the divine to do with it what they will and return it to us in a form that we, in our physical forms, can do something with.
And I think we're releasing control also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, anybody have any other questions or ideas or thoughts?
I wanted to thank you for really going into forgiveness a little deeper, and certainly in some ways a refresher on enchanted forgiveness. When I was listening to it, when you were talking about it, it felt very new to me. Even though I'd heard those words put together before, in this context, um, you know, the mystery, the magic, and the power of forgiveness, and how that breeds hope, and then what that can do. You know, forgiveness is such a cornerstone to reality creation, and certainly in how we can allow ourselves to evolve. But I never thought about it quite in that context. So I wanted to say thank you for putting it in such a clear and concise way to digest the profound nature of forgiveness.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That means a lot.
Yeah, well said. I would totally agree with that. This idea of enchanted forgiveness is something that I know I'll be pondering for a while. But I just wanted to say thank you. I feel kind of filled up with these ideas, and filled up with the seeds, and filled up with I can feel, the resonance shifting, and the ideas of the champion, and then the connection to the hero's journey, and the connection, to the seeds, and the imagery that you have is it's a wonderful, wonderful resonance that's very lifting.
Thank you, Mary. That means a lot. Thank you.
that was exactly what I needed to hear too. And it's so great, on the forgiveness thing to be reminded when something is happening again and again and again. And it's like, well, why am I allowing that? And it's like, well, you haven't forgiven yourself from allowing it in the first place. Oh yeah, dirt. And so then I can forgive myself why I allowed it in the first place, and then have the humility to let it shift and change. But that was just like before, and it was like that reminder. It's like, obviously I needed to hear that again. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And the bridge to the new, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. And forgiveness right now in our world, right? I mean, it's always so linchpin in any process of ownership, right? In any process of our identity. But here, I loved that in the context of the champion, it was about enchanted forgiveness rather than the forgiveness of the indebted kind of forgiveness, where we have to just turn it over to the divine and ask them then to give it back. And there's so many, such a complexity, but I love this in the context of the mystery, the enchantment, because when I think of a champion, I do feel all of the imbuing of the mystery of that. What takes somebody from being valiant to becoming a champion with valor? Right? What takes that person to identify not just with valor, but I am the champion in all of the many renditions of what a champion is? Because within me is all that I need to be that champion. All I have to do is to make the choice to look, to seek, to explore. And as you just said, Dana, to be humble enough to allow it to change me. And so for me, I've shared that the Arthurian legends were something really important to me. And many of you know, as I was a therapist for a gazillion and a half years, and I'm no longer in that field. But once a therapist, I think always a therapist. It's, you know, just part of my valued self, actually. And I'm a multi-sensory learner. So for me, I can't just write it. I can't just read it. I've got to do it. I've got to smell it. I've got to be the action of it. And that's when I'm gonna hold it into myself. And for something to be of value to me, and this is just, you know, neuroscience, we have to be successful at it. We have to believe in it. We have to want to do it. It has to be something really important to us. And so we repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And then eventually it becomes a part of our new identity. Okay. So, but we have to do it. And so with this context, when I was working with people, I'm going to talk about the activator of gracious giving or service. I wanted to create a way where my heroes were not just something that were on paper. And especially when you think about the context, I'm working a lot with kids and their families. So the kids are all like this, right? So they're used to avatars. They're used to all of these kinds of things. I wanted it not to be something that was a building being blown up on screen and having no relationship to the horror of that building and the lives of the people hurt. I didn't want it to be that an intellectual process. I wanted it to be something that was a process that was owned. And so for myself, what I began to do, and I've done this for each of the heroes, is I've created activators. Activators are something, and this is where something that the children all helped me to create, because in this presentation, it's a lot of lofty concepts. With the children, it's not stuff like that. You know, you say, I am good. I like food. I can run fast. You know, it's simple directives about self, right? And so then what we would do is there would be great music on. We'd have lessons on what was going on with that particular hero on that day. And then we would do the movements of the hero. And so in this hero, which is the hero of service or gracious giving, I really like to call it gracious giving, because service to me doesn't really talk about the grace of giving. When we think about giving, for me, when I think about giving, giving and receiving are the same energies. So as I give, so I receive. As I receive, so I give. Okay. So with this, your arms are up like angels' wings, right?
Yeah.
Squeeze your arms. Draw your arms back and down. And so the way it is going to go, and I don't know if you can see me, you're going to draw your arms down. And then when it comes, your hands are going to come up. So your palms are facing up so that you are embracing the more real, the divine, the unseen. And then you extend your hands out. Okay? And we repeat this 12 times. So when you're doing this, I'm thinking about gracious giving. I have music going on, and I'm going to ask each of you, in terms of the champion of service, connect for a minute within yourself. What within you is that champion of service? It could be service to self, service to loved ones, service to community, service to church, temple, mosque, whatever, I hope I didn't mean to offend anybody by not saying one, but any place of meeting the divine. So what you're going to do is you're going to have music that's positive music. You're going to be saying your mantra, and then you're going to go arms up, pause and squeeze, draw arms down, hands back, then hands extended out and palms up. Down, squeeze, palms up, and extend. I'm not going to keep repeating it, but you guys keep doing it. I'm going to do it for myself. And let's imbue a characteristic of gracious giving of that champion that we've seated within ourselves. Okay?
I have a question.
I'm waiting for everybody to finish, Carol, and then
Okay.
okay, I think everybody is. Yes, Carol.
Okay. When you go arms up, so the palms are up, right?
When you're
When
going
you
up, yeah.
yeah.
the palms are
When
up.
you go down, your palms are down.
They can be either way. It's wherever you're feeling inclined. It's what you remember, this is personal, Carol. So it's
Okay.
not what Robin is saying, it's what feels right for you.
Okay.
Okay.
And
This is
still,
one, yeah, this is one of many movements that we
Okay.
created for this hero. Okay.
Okay.
So it's just you identifying for yourself with that
Mhm.
champion.
Okay. And the
And
squeeze.
and
The
the
squeeze.
the squeeze is from moving from constriction, the constricted self.
And
Okay.
you squeeze
Yes.
your, oh,
I
good for the arthritis. Okay.
well, don't do anything ever to hurt yourself. If you can't squeeze, put your hands together.
Yeah.
Like,
All right. Okay.
so this working with the champion, the heroes here is where we're starting to help people to not only find these seeds within themselves, but to begin to work together, because heroes work in teams and heroes are on quests. So what is a quest? A quest is something where you're striving to be more. Okay. So here, the hero of gracious giving works a lot with valor or honor, and courtesy. Those are honor, valor, and courtesy are the emotions of the energies of the champion that work with the champion of service. And together they create a very beautiful synergy of possibility. And so my thoughts are either on our own or in teams of our close people, we could do something. We could commit even as a group of the people here that I'm going to be the champion of courtesy right now. And this is what courtesy, or I'm going to be the champion in the United States. Maybe we all need to learn how to be the champion of honor. And how about the champion of grace? And how about the champion of gracious giving and responsibility in that? You know what I'm saying? Right now, these are clear lessons that we're having to learn in my country of origin. And so maybe right now, each of us can make a commitment to being a champion for a week and just seeing, I'm going to do this in the morning when I wake up at a certain time. I'll touch bases again with it in the evening. I'll do it morning and evening. It only takes about 30 seconds to do, a minute. You can make it a little bit longer. You can do it with your favorite song in the background, and having your statements coming forward, and have an intention. So today, this is what I'd like to see changed. And have an intention. Go on your quest. And know that you'll have other people supporting you. And look at it after the 7 days. And notice, be willing with humility and with grace. And with, most of all, love. Be willing to see that you have made an impact. Each of us, all of us, are the champions. Each of us has the power to change the world. And that's what I'm saying, and I'm sticking with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
That was really
Yeah.
terrific.
You're welcome.
I accept your challenge.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
So those 12 steps are exactly the steps if you write a novel about legends and knights and quests. It's exactly the same. They came from Lazarus or?
No, they came from me, actually. Those came from me, but it's based upon work that I did. I was working with a bunch of teenage drug addicts. And I had to find a way to have them connect to this because, here I am clearly an adult, significantly over their age, even though this was maybe, let's say 15 years ago 20 years ago when I first created this program. And so they're saying, who are you? What are you telling us about anything? And I'd have to say, I'm not telling you anything. All I'm doing is sharing. If it touches you, then great. But what I could get them to do is, because I was assigning it, okay, and for their recovery, they had to do my assignments. So they had to go on the journey. And part of that journey was them picking their hero and their team. And so each team would have 4 energies working with it, okay, groups of 4, so there wouldn't be too much fighting. And from there, we would go on the journeys. And it led to provocative discoveries. And it led to changes within themselves that they were shocked by. Okay. And I think we're at a time in our world where we all need to be a little, in a good way, shocked and in a bad way, shocked by the events of our world. And as people, I personally, and I know many of us have said, I am choosing to be a light on this. I am choosing to help to usher in, to be a leader, not a leader that's better than anybody else, but a light as a leader of a world becoming more. And we are all now here in this time where many years ago, and I know we're at pretty much at time, Lazarus used to talk about, we have the fantasia and the wonder and the magnificence and the magic and all of that over here. And we have the nightmare over here. And then we have the mediocrity over here. And Lazarus would talk about that most people lived in the mediocrity. But now I think what we're seeing is most people are starting to live in the extremes, right? And that mediocrity is becoming lessened and lessened. And I remember very clearly years ago, Lazara saying that there will come a time that if you're staying in the mediocrity and you refuse to make the choice, you're moving into the nightmare. So silent acceptance is not going to keep you dormant. Not in this world, not in this time. So my fellow champions, hear my call, feel my heart, and know that I believe in each of us. Let's change this world. Let's change ourselves together.
Yes.
Irene.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Welcome, Janice.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. It's my honor.
It's so good to see all of you.
It's so great to see you. I love our groups. Yay.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. And just to reiterate one thing that Robin said at the very beginning, each of us are being called to be champions. And Robin has just called upon us again. So let us accept her challenge.
I accept.
Thank you, Mary.
Oh.
Thank you, Dana. And I'm going to take all of you as yeses unless I hear a personal no.
We're probably all yeses, very, very strong yeses, I would venture to guess.
And Dana, because the PDF is so big, what I'm going to do when my secretaries come in tomorrow, they're going to take the PDF, the PowerPoint, and they'll put it in a PDF form and I'll send it to you. So Dana will have it if anybody wants it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
The only thing I ask is, again, this is all my material and trademarked and some of it based on the material of Lazara. So please don't profit from it without speaking with me first, but use it personally. Share with your friends, share with troubled youth, troubled adults,
Mhm.
and everybody.
Of course. Thank you.
Yes, of course,
Thank you.
exactly.
So if you want it, you can just text or email me or text me. You've got my stuff. I will forward it to you as soon as I get it.
Thank
So,
you, Dana.
yay.
Take it.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Good
Thank you, everyone.
night.
Night, night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good
It's so good to
night.
see you all.
So wonderful.
And thanks for coming. Yay.
So
Great job,
wonderful.
lady. You guys rock.
Fantastic, Robin. That was so awesome. I can't wait to get the that PowerPoint. Seriously, that was brilliant. I loved it.
Well, you know,
I-
I thought in these times, you know, I really spent some time with this because I wanted to go through different things that I've done here, but also in other places and just present tools as a possibility, just as a mystery to explore.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And so many of the words just popped out and resonated. Like, this, we were here, that was just brilliant. It really was, Robin. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
The way you wove everything together made it was so concise, but it really is such a great map.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's really fantastic.
And you know, the thing that, just as we know, that's so important is like, as you're saying these mantras or these affirmations or whatever, these intentions, and listening to positive music. So your brain is saying an affirmation. So that's a certain part of the brain that's working there. Then the music is coming in and then you're moving, right? And it becomes something that gets planted a lot quicker as a valued self.
Mm.
I agree. They
Okay.
say it takes you less times to learn when you're playing with
Yes.
it, you know?
Yeah,
And
For
that
sure.
it's so multisensory and involving so many different parts of self. So, you know, and I literally, like in a country like Liberia, after a couple of months of doing this, when we started, every single child, every male or female, all they wanted to be was a soldier or a police person. Why? They always had food, they always had weapons, and they always had enough. They had authority, right? By the end of the 2 months, they wanted to be teachers, lawyers, social media gurus, the whole gamut of everything. Some would say, I want to be a mom, even, and have the courage to say something like that. Some would, you know, it was like, it was so inspiring. And so then what began to happen is their parents were doing it with them. And the parents who were feeling, I can't ever get a job, I won't ever have enough money, I won't ever have a safe place for my kids to sleep, they began to shift their attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that voila, the country is a great country, because it's still a pretty crappy country, right? Filled with a lot of corruption. But all it takes is one, and that ripples, you know, and that's where, for me, that's the magic, right?
Totally.
You got more than one there, babe. You got more than one again tonight, too. So, rock on, Robin. Ooh, I like it. Rock on, Robin.
And this is going to be a part of the extended curriculum in our schools. So
I
this
love
is
that.
Fantastic.
that.
So good.
It's
All right,
so
lady.
needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that beautiful intro too, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Great at it. You're so
Your
great.
name- Like, I've known this woman for a very long time. I know her name. I don't have to read the bio to say it.
That's okay.
Oh my God.
I know who I be. And
You
I
know
know
who
you,
he is.
and I know you know me, Elizabeth.
Yes, I know. I was trying to do it, for the YouTube and those that don't know you. So they got it right.
That's all right. Let them explore.
That's right. They can figure it out. It'll be
Yeah.
under your name.
Right.
All right, kids.
Love you guys. Good
Love you
night.
guys.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Bye for now.